to all those geomagnetic, storms and everything that was taking place as far as like, all these plasma vortexes opening up from the magnetosphere.
I was more taken back that it was Iberian Sphinx or lynx.
You said, excuse me?
I was more taken back that it was an Iberian lynx. The lynx is a North American cat.
Yeah, it was a white one that showed up the same day that the.
Where's the Iberian Peninsula at?
I'm not sure where they located it.
That's Spain.
Yeah, it was in Spain. Yes, it was in Spain.
And that's why I said the lynx is normally a North American cat.
Okay.
And I've been trying to have some kind of like, where is this going with this? But I know they call ghost animals when they born out with albinism like that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, it's so rare that when you see them, you know there's something spectacular going on spiritually. Like the white giraffes they had.
Mm-hmm.
The white buffalo.
Yeah, they say lucidic animals is also a representation of the end because it's the end of that biological entity's genetic format. So as far as like, you ever read the book? What is it called? Fuck, it's a Hebrew Israelite book, but it goes into like Levitical law and the book of Leviticus and how they talk about how leprosy in itself is a representation of the ending of a cycle. And when you see that takes place, when you're talking about like totem animals or whatever, it's a representation of the fact that the cosmic energy grid, the fifth dimension, merging in with the third dimension of what we call new heaven and the new earth. So that it kind of goes into that. So they say when a lot of animals, albino animals pop up, a lot of times it's seen as an omen in indigenous cultures.
So what they describe is called genetic genetic deterioration.
Mm-hmm.
It's entropy in the genome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now over a period of time, the Earth, with Schumann resonance in the sun, has to reset the genetics of all of the species on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Certain animals is going to be upgraded, and then they're going to start taking on a human form. They won't be born to that species of animal anymore. They'll go extinct. But the spirit that was dwelling in that animal now is going to be upgraded to sentient being, and now they can take on the physiology of a human.
Mm-hmm.
This is all metaphysical folklore. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that the Earth has to upgrade our genetics. This is in too many ancient records. I know that it's done through the blast of the Schumann resonance up on the receipt of a major solar burst, a solar storm.
Great solar flash.
Right. So when you study in genetics and what causes genetics to suddenly change is blasts of radiation. It don't change on its own.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get this blast of radiation. Well, the program comes from scan the genome of all species, find all genetic defects. This is a mitochondrial function that only the women do.
Mm-hmm.
So every woman that ever gave birth to a defective child was doing so in order to record the anomaly for correction in later children. If there's nobody recording the anomaly, it can't get corrected because nobody know it exists.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as it become known to exist, she has a record in her biology of what the defect is and what caused it. So she'll be giving birth to children, or somebody in her family will be giving birth to children that has the genetic makeup or recovery program for that defect. And this is Y chromosome, this is X chromosome, both of the chromosomes are being scanned by mitochondria for defects. The majority of the defects comes from the Y chromosome having a deficient amount of genetic material to properly transfer a full genome script to the female that's receiving the child.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't straighten up as men, they got to correct us out of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And make us become real rare again. Because it used to be a time where men were rare. This is why polygamy came about.
Mm.
Men are more populous now on the earth than at any time in the history of the world. And it's going to be the correcting of the genome. When that blast come off from the human resonance, that's the Atlas Shrugged.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she shake off the parasites.
Mm. I like how you put that. That's correct. We're gonna get into one more question. Raz terms. He says, "What does Rod think about Benjamin Banneker?"
The easiest way to say it is traitor. But you can't be a traitor. You're a foreigner.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't come over here for us. You came over here for them.
Mm-hmm.
They give him a credit for writing the first almanac, but they didn't tell you how he got the information.
Right.
They didn't tell you that he was going across the land talking to the different chiefs to compile that almanac.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have the information. They did. He just asked them the questions and they gave him the answers and he compiled it. They also give him credit for building the first clock in America. He didn't build the first clock in America. What he did was he trapped us in a time block, in a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the informants that told them about how to use the blood magic to subjugate a large mass of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't really have a lot to say about him. His fans is in the George Washington Masonic Memorial is one of the dirty Moors that came over here to take over.
That's a fact.
And if that ain't enough for you, then I don't know what it is, because you can go look in the George Washington Feds Memorial and you see Benjamin Banneker's feds in there when they took the feds off the Moors and the moccasins off the chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Or what they call sandals.
That's in Philly, right?
It's in Virginia.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say that's exactly where they stopped that penny circulation at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the penny is tied to the printing of the money, which was constitutionally given to Congress, and Congress ended up also been through the Treasury. Congress print and coin money,
mm-hmm.
But then they contracted with the Federal Reserve out of the bankruptcy, the second bankruptcy, I think it was, that was before the 33 bankruptcy. The second bankruptcy was like 1901. But that's when they made the contract between the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury that the Federal Reserve will print the fiat currency, and the U.S. Treasury will just hold on to assets. This is like a repository of tribal assets. The Treasury has never been used in the history of America to finance any government. It's just been collecting money. But everything has been being done through the legal fiction in the Federal Reserve System for the foreigners, using their monopoly money in the place of our real money.
Mm-hmm. I see you yawning and stuff. Make sure that, Master Tudor, what I'm saying, get his rest. But he says, Rod and Bill, what is your take on the Honorable Minister Farrakhan meeting with the FOI Black Men Only yesterday at Moscow, Maran, in Chicago?
He's prepared for something.
Mm-hmm.
Minister don't just haphazardly call meetings. And I would need to know more, because I'm surprised I'm just not hearing about it. But when he called that meeting, did he call all of the ministers, or did he just only call the FOI and the commanders? It depends. If he only called the military, that means they finna start getting prepared for something real big. If he called the ministers, then he was informing them on the direction that the messages need to take for the next however many months till he called the next meet.
And you know what's crazy? Because I just recently heard that my girl, she had said something about the SWAT is preparing for something big.
The who is?
SWAT. She knows somebody as far as like through her yoga stuff. Somebody had mentioned something about SWAT is supposed to be, they're preparing for something.
Spell that.
SWAT.
Oh, SWAT. In what city?
Yeah. SWAT. The SWAT team, they're preparing for something. She think the woman's her young boy, he works out of town in big city and he works for SWAT. And she said that they like preparing for something.
Remember I told you, everybody that's like SWAT teams are probably going to be commandeered by National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got specialists there.
Mm-hmm.
And they could be using to take the police out. Like the SWAT is like it's like a local militia.
Mm-hmm.
And they normally be manned by active law enforcement from different fields based on specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when the National Guard is on alert, SWAT has to be on alert. Period. The only way they don't be on alert if they all police and there's no sheriff deputies on there, there's no alternative law enforcement on there. Then they gonna be considered as a foreign military occupying the land.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have other law enforcement in their SWAT team, then that way they will be able to be absorbed into a functional, legal law enforcement community. We don't need all this shit. We don't need this shit because people over here keeping us broke, keeping us struggling, keeping us suffering. We didn't used to need prisons.
Facts.
You pay for your dirt on the spot right now. You didn't all that old lock you up for 5-10 years. No, he gonna pay for his dirt. If you were stealing, you gonna work for free.
Facts.
Until the debt is paid off. And the debt gotta be reasonable based on the crime. You can't let a person work 50 years for a candy bar.
Right.
It's not gonna happen.
Exactly.
But that's the kind of stuff they was doing to us in order to the 14th Amendment is the biggest illusion that was ever played on us.
Yep, fraudulent contract never ratified.
Not only that, they got two kind of citizens in there, which is contradictory to each other. And it gives an excuse to the slaveholders to hold slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Buy you a plot of land, build you a private prison, and we'll keep you full with all the slaves you can muster. We didn't need that. We didn't need none of that.
Mm-hmm.
The remedy for the crime is solved real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Start seeing people walking around with no hands for stealing, you understand why stealing stopped.
Right. That's a fact.
When you see grown men walking around as eunuchs, then you're going to see sexual assault stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. But now, in this era,
it's basically the personification of planet Earth, which is Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and things of that nature. So you also have to understand that he had two sons. He had Enki and Enlil. When you break down the etymology of the word Enki, it means Lord of the Earth. When you break down the etymology of the word for Enlil, it means Lord of the Sky, which is equated to Shaitan, right? So Enki, he actually has birthright to the planet by way of Anu. So that is basically the diametrical difference between Enki and Enlil. So Enki, he is part of the Seraphim faction when you're talking about the fallen angels, or not the fallen angels, but the fallen angel is equated to the bloodline of Enlil because he is part of the cherubim. So that gets into the mythology of the 200 fallen angels when you go to the book of Enoch. So the 200 fallen angels are basically the personification of the Nephilim. And when you go to ancient Hebrew, Nephilim is equated to Nephala, which is the fallen angel. So that's because Enlil went against the galactical order of Anu and he got casted out. And when they was casted out, they made it with the daughters of men, who is actually the Canaanite. You got 11 sons of Canaan. So you got the Jebusites, which is the people who control the infrastructure of the political system, the economical system, the movie industry, all the industries that's being controlled by the oligarchs and the plutocracy, which is your so-called Illuminati today. The same people that was found in those tunnels over in New York City.
Right.
All connected to that bloodline. So all this stuff goes all the way back to Sumerian mythology. And as we was talking about, Enlil, he was actually the serpent in the garden, right? But the only thing that people get missed in translation about Enlil is that they're not breaking down the etymological roots of certain words that's connected to these monotheistic teachings. Because when you go to the Strong Concordance 1180, Yahweh translates to the word Baal, who was Baal, who was Moloch. That is the same entity as Enlil. And then when you go to the Strong Concordance H1408, the word God is equated to the word Dag, and the word Dag is an anagram for the anagram from the word Gad. It's the same entity, which is equated to Dagon. So that's why, as far as the veneration and the credence in the dark priesthood of the Vatican Church, they always wear the hat of Dagon. It's all connected to their mythology. So all religious systems is equated to the veneration of Enlil, who is actually your so-called Satan. So everybody who's connected to the religious systems is connected under the lunar cycle, which is under the Piscean age, and that Piscean age was actually the age of darkness. So that the age of darkness in itself is the main reason why people are still under the sleep spell of Leviathan, which is also another name for the Serpent King.
Yeah, I mean, in the Catholic Church, they definitely are worshiping Dagon. And when you really look into that, who else was worshiping Dagon? The Philistines, remember?
Yep, the Philistines and the Canaanites are basically comprised of the same bloodline, because just like the Philistines, like the land of Canaan, right? Like when you got all that stuff that's going on, when you're talking about when the Balfour Declaration expired on October 31st, that whole geographical landmass, the land of Canaan, was actually connected to Egypt, which was ancient Kemet, because Egypt is a Greek term. So that's how you know that as far as like Greco-Roman culture and the Canaanites, they infiltrated that geographical landmass. So that's why they got exiled out of it. So it goes into that whole mythology in itself.
Was that landmass at one time, before they took it over, it was controlled by who? Is my question to you. Was they melanated people?
The land of Canaan?
Because some of the pharaohs and stuff in the later time, they talk about how the pharaoh was found and he had British blood or green eyes and red hair. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen that?
No, I've never seen that, but I've heard about it.
But that was after they took it over, right? Before that, wasn't it melanated people there?
Oh yeah, it was melanated people, but see, there's a diametrical difference between Egypt and ancient Kemet. Egypt was infiltrated by those who were still connected to that Babylonian bloodline, because that's why, as far as like Egypt, that is all part of the whole Hyksos dynasty, and you had they got infiltrated because I think Queen Cleopatra is the one that gave them up, so these Hyksos can infiltrate ancient Kemet, and that's when it got transmuted over into ancient Egypt, because people think Egypt is an African term. It's really a Greek term.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, because it was. Yep, that's another thing that people got to understand, is that, like I said, there is a diametrical difference between the word God and the Most High. When you see the word God in all these monotheistic contexts, and when you reading the Bible, when you're reading the Talmud and things of that nature, they're actually talking about Enlil, because the word God is actually a pagan word, right? Because when you're talking about the letter G, that also is also connected to Freemasonry. When you look at the letter G inside the compass and the square, the G is also a representation of the sacred geometry, because when you take the prefix of the word geo, it's equated to the word chi. So it's actually the the veneration of the false god taking over the whole geographical landmass of America and all these countries all over the planet. He's basically, you know what I'm saying, subjugated the planet with a fermented dome when you go to the book of Genesis. So the book of Genesis in itself is the main reason why, you know, it's basically the creation of the simulation that was facilitated by the archonic forces who are the cherubim of the Bible. That's connected to Enlil. So that's where the spiritual cutoff takes place. So, because like that's why in Freemasonry they say that who's your God? It's the supreme architect of the universe. Their universe is part of the creation of the simulation. That's why when you look at the Masonic square and the compass, it's a representation of Jack and Boaz, which is the sun and the moon, which is basically two generators that operates on the fractions of light from the spiritual sun outside of the dome. So that's where the spiritual cutoff starts to take place. Then when you go to Corinthians 4:4, it tells you that God, their God, which is equated to Satan, depending upon what version of the Bible that you're reading, it says that Satan blinded the minds of the people. He's actually the God of this world. When you go to Corinthians 4:4.
Yeah, or Yaldabaoth. I mean, one and the same, right?
It's the same person, just different names. Just like I told you, you go to when you break down the Tetragrammaton, right, of Yahweh, YHWH is equated to agreeable and disagreeable. Half Anunnaki, half Draconian reptilian.
Inky, is he Draconian?
Everybody have the reptilian genetic. That's why we have a mammalian cortex and a reptilian cortex. So right. you're able to shapeshift or whatever. But like I was saying last night, a lot of people got to understand that, you know, shapeshifting in itself is not a spiritual ability. It's a technology. So
wow,
I'm going to be breaking that
That's
down.
Fascinating what you said about Earth having the firmament and that being an artificial representation. Because if you look into Gnostic texts, that's literally what they did. See, the archons can't create nothing from their own mind, but what they can do is they're called the great mimickers. They can mimic, right? So they can take something that already exists and hijack it and manipulate it. And that's like what they did to this reality. It was created organically. And then it seems like they've hijacked and put this AI overlay to it. And there's also some type of I believe this, you could see it in the astro plane clear as day. There's some type of a net surrounding us that I think.
Matter of fact, that goes into the fact because everything that Inky does, Enlil basically mimics it. So Enlil also has a son named Marduk. And Marduk put up the net of Indria that's connected to the ley line grid system of planet Earth that basically is the glue and the tachyon energy of the firmament. He put the net of Indria over planet Earth, and the net of Indria is the Draconian reptilian net for soul entrapment. So this planet that we living on is basically being used as a energy extraction and a soul trap mechanism that's connected to the false religious systems. So that's why when you look at the cube of Saturn, all religions is basically showing veneration and credence to the cube of Saturn because the cube in itself is a form of spiritual entrapment. It's a soul entrapment. That's what it's about. They're here to harvest souls because that's how they have their genetical self-preservation, by feeding off the energy and the frequency and the vibration of those who are connected to their system in their simulation.
That's you said something the other day. Okay, so like Saturn symbolism, right? They say Saturn's the computer, the sun is the power supply, the moon the communication interface modular, Earth the simulator. As far as that theory goes, the Saturn moon matrix. And you said the other day about Jesus. So you know how in Islam they walk counterclockwise around the hypercube? And then in Judaism, they wrap it around the arm and crown chakra. Christianity, they're praying to a cross, which is an unfolded cube. So is there anything there as far as your opinion goes, with why the cube is unfolded, I've heard many different theories. Like Jesus is the same as the Neo character, and he conquered the Matrix. Then there's other that it's an allegory
Well,
connected to
well,
Jesus.
it is an allegory because the word Jesus is equated to the word Jesus because the word Jesus, the letter J wasn't invented until the 1600s. So when you're talking about the word Jesus, you're really talking about the word Jesus, which is coming from the root word of gases. And those gases are granulations and prominences, which is basically a form of Ethereal energy. So when you say the word, that's why some people be like, well, I said the word Jesus and it has a lot of power to it, even though it's connected to religion, because the inception of that word is talking about an etheric force. So when you say the word Jesus, that's why it has a lot of intuitive power to it.
Right, the word.
Yeah,
Right.
the word Jesus. But as far as like the mythology and stuff like that, I really don't really believe in it, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, we all got our. I tell people too. There's a lot of my people that do believe in Jesus. A lot of them that think Yahweh's God. I think Yahweh is Yahweh Baoth myself.
It is.
But,
Yeah.
but we all have different opinions and different views, and that's cool. I like to share, our opinions with each other so we could figure it out, because that's what I'm trying to do. I want to know the truth, what it really is. And if you're not able to listen to other people open-mindedly, you're never going to get there. Some people, they just want you to be in an echo chamber. So if you're not saying what they believe, they feel uncomfortable because they're not intellectually
connection to it because she pretty much knows what's going on because Jay-Z, he was actually a follower of Dr. Malachi Z. York. He was actually that was actually his mentor, so he knows what's going on. So I'm pretty sure she has an insight about the esoteric information as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's why, as far as like the Democratic Party, they propagate, the voting ideology to black people because it's based on a form of warfare, because it connects you right back to the 14th Amendment, which is a fraudulent contract because it was never ratified. So what happens is when you connect yourself to the 14th Amendment by way of the Democratic Party, what happens is when you participate in fraud, you can't claim injury to the system. So that's why uh, a European, he can shoot you down in the street and get away with it, right? To where there's no restitution or justice, right? And that's another thing that they're going to try to do with these elections. They're going to give off this perception and this ideology of reparations. Don't fall for it because that's a form of technology. Because when you fall for the reparations ideology and when you fall for it, it connects you right back to the 14th Amendment, right? Which gives them extension on the corporation in itself. You see what I'm saying? Because they know that the end of the deep state shadow government, they know that the end of their system was connected to the Piscean age, patriarchy. Now we in a republic because you don't have United States citizens in a republic. Now you got to understand the delineation between the United States of America and the United States for America. Hold on, I'm lagging again. Now, you got to understand the diametrical difference between the United States of America and the United States for America. The United States of America denotes ownership of a people. Who's that ownership of? Your so-called blacks that's connected to the 14th Amendment. Now, the United States for America is under a republic that's galvanized by the people. The people are the ones who's supposed to be picking these politicians and all these leaders and things of that nature, right? So the United States of America controls the United States citizens, right? Meaning that you don't have any privileges. Hold on. Yeah, I seen something up here. I'm gonna speak about it because I thought about doing a video on it, but uh, I thought about doing a video on this movie, but this movie the Book of Clarence, it was basically talking about the return of a messianic figure. So that's what it, because during this time period, they know by way of predictive programming and chaos magic and, art imitates reality, you know, what they're going to do is, they're going to have a false messianic figure that's going to come back to this planet. And that's where, a lot of people, they're going to get tricked by the system. They're going to believe, because what's going to happen is the planet is going to be in a state of desolation, so much to the point where humanity is going to fall to their knees and they're going to be looking for a savior. And that's when the messianic figure is going to come in, the false messiah. So that's a good movie. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't that good. The soundtrack was trash. Yep, this is our shit. I keep saying I'm gonna get one more question in, but I keep talking. I don't really get to talk to y'all that much. I really don't speak too much about bloodlines on here, whatever blood types or whatever. But it says it's numerology or actual cheat code to escape the metrics. I'm a life path one. Hold on first. All right, I was lagging a little bit, but yeah. Also, you got it. Not only that, you also got to study uh, Vedic gematria. Study gematria because gematria is connected to the Metatronic overlay of the simulation. So, like I said, your gematria body, you living in the simulation, is connected to the numerical components of the universe. So, gematria, it'll tell you about certain things that's going to take place, not only that's acclimated to your life, but everything that's going on around you. Because the simulation in itself operates on a binary code system of zeros and ones. And a zero is the personification of 0 point energy, which is carbon. And a one is the personification of photons. Photons are trapped light. So when you trap light in a photon, right, you get carbon, which is physical density. So that's how you know that the gematria body is connected to the Metatronic overlay under a ley line grid system with a fermented dome over the planet. So everything as far as like the numerical components of, numerology and astrology, it's all connected to the matrix system, but you escape it by getting yourself in alignment, letting everything go. I'm almost done. All right, one more question. What do you think of so? Yeah, I keep sending some good questions, and like I said, I don't really get to talk too much on here too much. So I'm looking for a good question. That way I can get out of here. What should we do to? Uh, I'm waiting for somebody to give me a question so I can get up out of here. What should you do? What's the best? Yeah, I'm going so fast in the chat, I can't even try to catch one. I'm gonna get one good question in. I'm gonna just do it. Answer this question because it's conducive to the timeline that we living in. Um, the X, when you talk about, like I said, the X is the foundation of resurrection because that's what Osiris was basically doing. So that's why the propagation of the World Economic Forum, they're propagating that all throughout their media because, like I said, it's connected to spiritual evolution. So that is by way of technological radiation when you talk about those nanoparticles, right? So when you have those nanoparticles in you, because of what happens is it causes the P136 deletion syndrome, which basically dematerializes the two frontal lobes of the brain to where it activates a form of zombification. So when you have these new energies coming in, when you have that April 8th solar eclipse, it puts an X over the planet. That is a new spiritual energy that's coming in. It's a spiritual energy of an etheric force that's basically going to cause a destruction, but it's going to activate the chosen while at the same time. So it's a supreme spiritual energy that's going to activate the X gene. The X gene, which gives you the capabilities of your spiritual gifts, which makes you an X-Man, right? So the symbology of the letter X, like I said, is also, when you look at it, there's no, it's basically like a broken infinity loop. You coming out of the loop. It's the end of an age, the building of destroying. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, be getting out of here so I could tend to my little man. Got all these geomagnetic energies coming to the planet. You got Elon Musk talking about the rabbit hole and how the rabbit is out the hat. You got all the stuff that's taking place with the penny that's out of circulation. There's a lot of shit going on. So where we finna start at tonight? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the first thing we got to make mention of is the internet was like all out early in the morning in multiple places. People were reporting internet outages.
Facts. Yep.
When they do stuff like that, that's a tester to see what the reaction gonna be, right? And they judge by the flow of the algorithm what the reaction gonna be.
Okay.
Right. When I did a Young Elder the other day, we was talking about the green aura that was around the earth for that returning love energy, right? Then the earth was vibrating at the heart chakra. When we got done with that class, the next day it was violet, crown chakra.
Yep.
Right? So we hit the nail on the head because when you go from the heart chakra straight to the crown chakra, that's what you call the heart link to the heavens.
Right.
So then we got the sun got a big old butterfly symbol in it, looked like a reverse Batman symbol.
Yep.
Right? Butterfly is the symbol for transformation. So they're telling us that there's a transformation in progress based off the recent solar activity. Remember, we was getting blasted by solar storms last week, and the shooting resin been off the chain. And this is why we seeing these color shifts in the Aurora Borealis. If I can pronounce it correctly, I always butcher it. But the lights, the northern lights, was being seen in southern states in the United States, which is rare. Which means it's a large mass coronal interference in the Van Allen belt, right? And it's the gamma rays that turn it green, right? And then it's the ultra, I think it's called ultra gamma rays that goes into your purples and reds, right? But we talking now, we not root chakra, we heart chakra, crown chakra. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and now we got to unpack what is it telling us. Because the whole thing is about, we see these stellar events, solar events, we see the Schumann resonance events, we see this political stuff playing out, and you know they always call a new field of study the rabbit hole.
Yep.
And our first introduction to the rabbit hole in most people's childhood is Alice in Wonderland.
That's a fact. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put something up for you.
So Alice sat on the mushroom, right? When she seen the white rabbit, she took her down into the rabbit hole, which was her adventures of Alice in Wonderland. Wonderland is another way of saying your subconscious realm.
That's a fact.
Because the psilocybin opens up the subconscious realm so that you can consciously process it. That's why they call it hallucinations.
And then, not only that, the rabbit in itself is also a representation. When you get into the esoterics, the rabbit hole can be associated with Ophiuchus. So that's when you get into, the number 67. They talk about the number 67 is pretty much the most intrinsic definition all throughout the year of 2025, because it's the resurrection of the 13. So when you go down the rabbit hole, you're actually connected to yourself to the womb of creation, which is also associated with Ophiuchus, like I said, because I think Ophiuchus is in between November 29th into December 17th. So there's a resurrection and a rebirth energy here on the planet, and they telling you within the political infrastructure, because you ever seen that video when Donald Trump, he kept on talking about he's building the ark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ark in itself is also a representation of the global turning point that's connected to Charlie Kirk, which is the fall of the church. So the royal ark in itself is a representation of a resurrection process, because it coincides with the 47 problem of Euclid. So the 47 in the ark coincides with Noah, right? So Noah, when you break down the word from the etymological standpoint in ancient Hebrew, it means the mind. Noah means mind, and then you got the arcs, or the angels of light, the angles of light coming down to the planet that hits the mind. So it's actually talking about a form of mind science technology when you get into the 47. And matter of fact, I'm gonna pull this up for you, because I remember we was on the phone the other day, and I was telling you about the movie Sneakers. This movie came out, I think it was in 1984, that also coincides with the timeline with Donald Trump, with Donnie Darko talking about the bunny, because in the movie, not the movie, but the book, Baron Trump's Adventure, he was stuck in a fixed position reality in 1984 when this movie came out. And then you see it got XRP when I was doing my independent research. And then it's at the security code, you see the 47 right here. That also coincides with the Royal Ark of Freemasonry, that also coincides with the global turning point. And then you also got to watch the damn movie. There's a reason why they put this movie back on Netflix, Ready Player One, because the inception of the destruction that took place when you're talking about the Great Purification, it started in the year of 2027. That's when the world ended in the movie. But it was certain dates they had from November. I think it was from November 17th to the 29th. It was something that took place within the movie that also coincides with the timeline that we're in right now. So that's why I keep telling people the movies is also acclimated to the timeline, because it's actually telling an esoteric story. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of stuff to look at when it comes to that.
When you look at the position of Hollywood and DC on opposite sides of the land, it becomes critical to the understanding of what a political satire is.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't know that all they doing in DC is political satire.
That's
right. That's why you see stuff like this.
Yep. This is the guy. Yep.
Yeah. So this is telling you about the satire. Because if you look here, you see Elon Musk is dressed like what?
A bunny rabbit.
A jester.
Yep.
He dressed like a magician, a jester, a court entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then you see the molecular symbol for the bunny up there that comes from the adrenochrome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, the rabbit out the hat mean exposing the magic trick.
Facts. Babylonian blood magic.
Yep. So when they pull the rabbit out the hat, they saying this is the magic trick. So they're showing you the trick, the deception.
And the deception is in itself is connected to, the de facto corporation in itself, because all the corporations, as what I call the middleman, which is the devil, which is a form of instant gratification, they use it as a mechanism, like we talked about last year when we broke down the blood magic.
Mm-hmm.
Blood magic coincides with the rabbit. So when you follow the rabbit, you're going to follow the corporations that actually extracts the energy from, humanity, as far as like what we call the loosh, which is a form of human data. But that's the most intrinsic resource on the planet is human data. That's what the archons have to feed on. So that's why I was, I had this theory, you already know about the whole 1934 when they created Social Security and things of that nature, and they created the numbers and the community uniform security and stuff. When it comes to that, that's when, they turned us into humanoid real estate. So it was actually one of those things where the corporation in itself is being used as a catalyst to cause the reset by eliminating humanity, because in order to reset the debt, you have to eradicate, about 7.7 billion people. That coincides with the Georgia Guidestones when they said they want to maintain humanity at 500 million, even though, they got destroyed also.
Yeah, that was because their plan failed.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing that we got to do to show that they plan failed is get rid of the stones. You didn't win, so you can't say what we gonna do on Earth because you lost.
Facts. Yep.
Right. So another thing about that rabbit and that blood magic, right? Remember, the rabbit is the symbol for fertility.
Yep.
Tied to Ishtar.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The symbol for one of the symbols for Ishtar is she have a statue and she's covered in mammary glands all the way down to her ankles. Right. So that's the mother that feeds the nations.
Okay.
It's a representation of a sacerdotal seat. The irony of it is you brought up 67. That's Empress Redbird's birth year.
Oh wow! And she got the allodial title to the land, right?
Right, but that's their surrender. The loyal title don't mean nothing to us. It means something to them.
Right, because we don't paper.
Right. So in order for them to acknowledge her blood right, they got to give her the paperwork. They letting them know that we know who you is. Let us finish cleaning this up, and we gonna make sure everybody else know who you is too. But we first have to give you this recognition so you will know that your work was being done.
So what does that kind of fall in line with the whole 1776 thing? Because they came out with the last circulation of the penny that also coincides with Philadelphia, because that's where they stopped it at after 232 years, which is an anagram for 322, which is the what's that, skull and bones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So one of the things about 1776, that's the Boston Massacre. Right. That's when they harvested the blood of Crispus Attucks. When they got to do their conjure work on it in order to turn it into ink. When they turn it into the ink, it becomes self-actualizing. They call it the first blood of the righteous in a conflict. They always have to let you know who the first blood of the righteous, or the person that was the rightful heir whose blood was used for the conjure, has to be always kept in the forefront. So they gave us this fanciful story about some half African that started to who set it off in the American Revolution with the Boston Massacre.
Mm.
And if you really think about it, this is why the Boston wear red socks, because they was walking through the massacre, the blood of the massacre.
Wow. And so is that part of the Red Shoe Club and the Pilgrim Society?
So the Red Shoe Club comes from Europe, from Spain.
Okay.
And the shoes that was originally being made, that was dyed red, was made out of human skin.
Mm.
And that's what made the leather for the red shoe so valuable. The red bottom shoe is a different shoe. It represents people who walked across the bloody floor.
Wow. Okay. That
right. So they walk across the bloody floor, they leave a red footprint, which is a bloody footprint.
Mm.
Only it's not a footprint, it's a handprint. And it's only one place to find it. On the indigenous rebellion, where they put the red paint across their mouth because of the colonizers that was stealing the women in order to impregnate them to infiltrate bloodlines.
Mm.
So that's what you see when you see those girls, those native girls, right, with the red hand on their face. That's what they talking about. Mm. They talking about the kidnapping of the native women. Those women were brought over here as Huns, but when they got over here and was re-educated, they became Native Americans.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of reminds me of that volleyball symbol when you're talking about what took place with the little people in DC.
Mm-hmm.
And they had one of the symbols was of it looks like a hand. It looked like a hand that was covered in blood, and they put it over a soccer ball or a volleyball. And I think
that's
it was
a fragile drip.
Yeah.
That's a fragile drip. That comes from Tom Hanks in Lost, I think was the name of the movie.
Yep.
Right, and you see Ellen DeGeneres wearing it on her hoodie, and some people wearing it dressed as that in like award shows, dressed up like fragile drip.
Yeah, they do all that. It's like transgressive. It's like high end fashion, but they use like biological fluids and biological parts of things.
It's actually called horror fashion.
Right.
If you look up horror fashion, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a whole genre. But in this case, the secret society is telling on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Without telling the general public that they telling on somebody, they just start, the imagery pops up.
That's a fact.
We got to be savvy enough to say, what is these people telling us with this fragile drip handprint, bloody handprint? So most people don't know what fragile drip is. They don't know about the pedestal files and the insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They only concerned about this dude right here. He was a Mossad CIA asset.
That's a fact.
He replaced somebody who passed away from old age. The only reason why we know that is because when they went through the videos on Epstein Island, they go all the way back to the 30s on the island. So who was in Hollywood in the 30s that you can go back and you can track it?
Mm.
All the ones that didn't want to play ball end up getting blackballed out of the industry.
That's a fact. And another thing that's crazy about this, 2 videos ago, and this is just based on my independent research and my own, conspiracy theories or whatever. Just like I tell people all the time, in order to beat the Matrix, you got to go within the Matrix in order to get out. That's when you go down the rabbit hole. But the rabbit hole in itself is also being embedded inside of the simulation so much to the point where you're able to extract the information. So what I'm saying is that, within the video game, I said 2 videos ago, I said that there's going to be a link and there's going to be an emulation of what took place on Epstein Island, and they're putting it inside the video game of Grand Theft Auto. And there's going to be a mission in the game where it's going to show you the true link and it's going to show you the actual list of what took place. And it's supposed to be some hackers that's putting the link inside this video game that's supposed to be coming out in November 19th of 2026. But they pushed it back the day after I said that they're going to put the link in the game, and they pushed it back from the spring of 2026 to the November, literally the next day. So it's kind of because you play video games, Rod?
No, I don't.
Now this is important because in the last Grand Theft Auto, they show you the statue. I think it's Grand Theft Auto 4 or 5. The Statue of Liberty is actually Hillary Clinton. And then when you go inside, it shows like the heart beating or whatever, which is also a representation of the corporate infrastructure that placated on humanity, based in blood magic and things of that nature. So it shows you that. So it seems like there's a mockery that's taking place within the political apparatus when you're talking about the new republic that's coming from the Trump administration. It seems like they're working with, a lot of these video game videographers, and they put a lot of the information inside there. So I've been looking into some of that stuff because there's a mission in the game that actually it shows you the emulation of Epstein Island.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff they put it in various different places.
Mm-hmm.
By me not being a gamer, I won't see a lot of what they put in the games.
Right.
But I used to watch a lot of movies growing up, so a lot of the stuff I see now was in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You brought up the year 1984. You remember where you brought it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up for you right now, Rod. I got you. Where is it at? Did I put it in here? I thought I did. I can bring it up, but I know that it's actually talking about a totalitarian order in that movie.
Okay, so the year 1984 is what you were talking about earlier in the show.
Yeah.
Okay, now the year 1984 also is where George Orwell's book was designated as 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then George Orwell's book, his teacher was Aldous Huxley,
mm-hmm.
who wrote A Brave New World. Right? And one of his socialites, Aldous Huxley's socialites, who also was good friends later on with George Orwell, name was Ayn Rand, and she wrote the Atlas Shrugged.
Mm.
Right? Now, there's also 1984, which is Rex 84, Readiness Exercise, 1984. So it's all connecting to a time frame.
Yep.
Right? So when you go back and look what was going on in 84, Reaganomics.
Yep.
Reaganomics was going on in 84 and Project Hope, where they created Focus Hope to give government stored food to the public that was having food problems.
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Reagan took office. He said that he had no idea of the level of hungry people it was in America when they got all this food that they had in storage to feed the American people.
Mm.
They took a percentage of it out because it's primarily for the military use, but it's an excessive surplus enough to feed the American public for up to a year before it starts to run low. It's 300 and something million people, almost 400 million people in America. So they got enough food in reserves, canned and stored, air sealed and packed tight, waiting for distribution. Whose job is it going to be when the grocery stores close down to distribute the food rations to the public?
Shit, it should be the church. Shit.
Church is going to be gone.
I know, but shit, they're supposed to be a storehouse.
So in the time of crisis, it activates a joint committee of National Guard, FEMA, and several other government agencies to mobilize the National Guard's troops to set up warehouses to distribute the food to the people of the certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you got Michigan National Guard. People in Detroit don't know it, but they sitting right there waiting to be deployed. They already here. Chicago know they there. They've been filming them coming in. Memphis know they there. DC know they there. Philly know they there. Right? LA know they there. San Diego know they there. San Francisco know they there. Right? So most of the people is unaware that if they can maintain their cool in this crisis that they finna manufacture, we not supposed to give it no thought. Let the government shut down. Fuck the government. That's how we gotta see it. Close it down. Shut it down. Let's see what you gonna do next. Because if we don't put a challenge to them to produce, they gonna keep on running games on us. Cyclic games. They run them in a loop.
Yep. And I'm glad you brought up the loop because that coincides with my 589 research when you're talking about the bearable God, because it represents the transmutation process of deviate from the corporate legal fiction by going back into natural law, which is common law for the people. So that's why I was saying, by way of the law of reciprocity, everything has to come full circle, which is 360 degrees of the closing of the age that was connected to the maritime law. So that's why I said we're in a time of rebuilding right now, because everything within their infrastructure has to collapse, whether if it's a synthetic reset or if it's something that's, being extracted from the cosmos and Mother Nature. So, right. And I showed you some of this right here the other day. I think it was the top one, because the bearable God is supposed to be playing Donald Trump. So it's really just showing you. It's really just kind of like based on the timeline. It's showing you the.
Is that supposed to be a bear?
Yep, it's a bear. Yep, it's the bearable God.
That's the symbol for Cali too.
Oh, for California. Yeah,
California symbol is a bear, and it's on the tip of his nose is a 5-point star.
Wow. I'm just now peeping game off that. See, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, you can go pull the California flag up and see it. It's right there on the flag.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Cause my computer, I need to get me a different computer. My shit's slow. Hold on, let me see.
Now, while you pulling it up, most of us don't know that's what you call an open public contract between 5 tribes.
Okay.
The symbol that they all have in common is the bear totem. We used to call them the bear clans.
Facts.
Then they gave us something called Bornstein Bears. 3 little bears. All it is to keep the bear totem active in the mind of the people so that the bear clan can reclaim their birthright.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up, because check this out, right? Because I got this in here too. Because I know Russia, they just been found. Where is it at? Yeah, here we go. Russia is also they represent the bear as well when you get into like the metaphysics of the Bible or whatever. But it talks about the Russian military spy ship, so that coincides with the movie Red Dawn. Like, remember we broke that shit down too.
Yeah, but see, you got to know where this Russian ship. Remember the Russian ship that went to Cuba about 2 years ago? They was dropping off prisoners to Gitmo. Everybody keep thinking that this is only America that's cleaning up the land. It's going on all over the world.
That's a fact. Is this it right here, Rod?
It's the that's the bear.
Okay.
Now, if you look up, you see the 5-point star?
Yeah.
Because of the 5 tribes. Now, the reason why they use the 5-point star, the point being each tribe is they all matriarchal tribes.
Mm-hmm.
The bear is the chief being instructed by the women, the 5 matriarchal tribes. They got chiefs. Each tribe got a chief, and then they get together. The one who qualified to lead whatever they doing as a collective is the chief that takes the lead. Right. And that's why you see guys walking on the green grass. Cali is desert.
That's a fact. Yep. People ain't gonna catch it.
That's because they represent law land, land law. not an admiralty law. The only reason why they came up with a flag is because some people came from Europe with the law of the flag. So we went from totem poles and wampum belts to flying flags too.
I'm trying to get back to the bear. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it shows you within the art. I keep telling people, man, like the algorithm is telling you every time. They tell you in every movie. They tell you in every magazine, like what time it is, and motherfuckers just think it's entertainment. And I know you've seen or heard about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is most likely one of those land masses that's emerging from under the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even when I get into my own independent research in itself, and it's actually connected to the ancient, energy grid system, which is what we call the tectonic cycle. So you're going to get a lot of, sedimentary rock formation. And then they were saying that, the people that live within that geographical area of Zealandia, it was the Melanesian people, and it was also the people that was connected to Lemuria, which is also connected to the Lost Continent of Mu. I got that book, Lost Continent of Mu. So it actually talks about New Zealand within that publication. It doesn't talk about it in the article too much, but it also talks about New Zealand and how they were.
So pull up a map of the South Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
You're going to notice that at one time it was a land bridge from the South Pacific to Hawaii.
All right, South Pacific Ocean. Everybody put them rice bowls in the chat in them apes in there. All right. Can you hear me, Rod?
Yeah.
Okay, I was making sure you can.
I was checking out the comments.
Okay.